Hello, today I'm going to be checking out Lian's multi-directional vertical GPU bracket. This is going to be available from today in both black and white with an MSRP of just under $75 US. So let's see what makes this bracket special. So the first thing is we've got a 155cm Gen 5 riser cable. If we take a look at the front of the bracket, we've got this ARGB lighting bar. And if we take a look in from the back, you'll see we've got a 3.5 volt ARGB cable. So simply plug this into the motherboard to control the effects on that lighting bar. And the good news is that we've also got a daisy chainable connector. So you're not going to take up an ARGB header. You can simply plug this in and then you can add another device into here if you need to. So now we come on to what makes this bracket different, and that is the level of adjustment that you have for your GPU. So there's 3 different heights you can install the bracket in, and as well as that there's 3 different tilt positions. So let's take a look at the height first of all. So to adjust the height, the first thing to do is remove this thumb screw. And then with the thumb screw removed, we're able to adjust the position of these screws here on this side, and that is going to determine our height. So if I grab hold of the bracket at the side, I'm able to pull it towards the right hand side of the screen. That's then going to free the bracket up, and if I want to move it down, I can move it down a slot and then push it towards the left to lock it into place. And if I want to move it up again, put it to the right, bring it all the way to the top, and then lock it into place. And then once you've got it into position, all you need to do is reinsert the thumb screw to hold it in that position. So for installing, I'm going to leave it in the middle position to start off with. So to adjust the angle, we just need to loosen this thumb screw rather than removing it. So you can see this screw up here. All we need to do is put it up to the top where it's free, and then we can tilt the bracket down this way, and this is going to have the GPU bracket tilted forwards. And if we want to tilt it the other way, again, just lift it up. We can slide it all the way back to here, and then it'll drop down and lock into position. And then to secure it, all we need to do is tighten up that thumb screw. And I'll show you what that looks like from this side. So again, that's the little screw that you're moving. So again, we're just going to lift it up, and if we want to tilt it forward, we can. And you see that's going to have our graphics card pointed forward. The advantage of doing that is it's going to make more space above the graphics card for larger air coolers, for example. And the other thing that you're going to be able to do if you want to tilt it back the way, this is the default position, and we can go all the way back to here and have your graphics card tilted up the way, and that's going to give you a really nice look at the fans. So taking a look at the side of the bracket, you can see it's going to take up 6 slots in your case, and that's the minimum that you're going to need to use this bracket. However, if you want to use the bracket tilt function, your case is going to have a minimum of 7 slots. So this brings me on to the feature I'm most excited about this, and this is the anti-sag bracket. I've been really put off installing graphics cards in the vertical position recently. I'm using massive graphics cards, and even with a good bracket, they do sag quite a bit. So Lian are trying to stop it with this anti-sag bracket. If you take a look at the bracket at the side, there's 3 different notches in it, and take a look at the bracket, there's a little notch here on the end. So the idea is that you're going to fix this bracket to your motherboard. I'll show you this in a case in a minute, but it's going to use standoffs and go into the bottom right hand corner of your motherboard. And then the idea is the bracket is simply going to rest in these slots. You'll notice that we've got 3 different slots, so if you're going to have your bracket tilted forward, it's going to rest in this slot, and if you're going to have it tilted back, it's going to rest in this slot here. The other important thing to cover is this is obviously going to be fixed in position, because you're going to have to secure it with standoffs here and here to your motherboard, so it's not going to be able to move. But we are able to move our GPU both up and down. We're able to vary the slots we install the bracket in. We can install it between slots 1 to 6 and 2 to 7. And we're also able to tilt the bracket. So that's going to determine how high we need this little bracket. So you can see here we do have some adjustability on it. And to do that, there's 2 screws here we're going to need to remove. So if I turn the bracket around, you notice we've got these 2 fixed screws, and we are able to change this bracket into 5 different height positions depending on how you've positioned the vertical GPU bracket in the case, and also what height and tilt settings you've got it in. And in the manual, Lian explain which height position to use for each position of your GPU bracket. So we can have it all the way up at the top. There's the 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and then the 5th lowest position. And then once you've got it in position to secure it, all you're going to need to do is put the 2 screws back in. And even when you've got this fixed in the case, you are going to be able to adjust the height of it. Okay, the first step in the installation is to remove 6 of the expansion slot brackets. You can either install it in the high or the low position. If you're going to install it in the high position, remove the top 6 slot covers. If you want to go for the low position, remove the bottom 6 covers. So you can see I've removed the bottom 6, so I'm going to go for low position installation. So the next thing to do is install our support bracket. So we're going to install it in the bottom 2 screws on the right hand side of the motherboard. So when you're installing your motherboard, just leave these screws out. So I'm going to go ahead and remove the ones that I've got installed. And then we get 2 of these long standoffs, so it's just a matter of screwing one of these into each hole. We do get the standoff insertion and removal tool with the GPU support bracket, so we'll pop it over the standoff, and this is going to allow us to use a screwdriver to secure the standoffs. So then we're able to take our bracket and line it up with the standoffs, and then we can use the 2 screws to secure the bracket into place. So out of the box, the position of this GPU support bracket is in the right position for the high position. Because I've gone for low position, I'm going to need to move it down by 2 slots. So the first thing is to remove the 2 screws, and then as I've shown you, all I need to do is slide it this way, and then I'm able to slide the bracket down the 2 slots that I want to go to and push it to the left again to lock it into place, and then I can simply secure it with the 2 screws. So just before I install the bracket, I want to get our ARGB cable plugged in. So there's an ARGB header just here. So we'll go ahead and get the cable plugged in, and then I'm just going to push all the excess cable through to the back of the case. Next, we can set our vertical GPU bracket into place. So we'll just line it up with the slot covers on the side, and we can secure it into place using the original screws. And then if we take a look in from the side, you can see how our bracket is resting nicely in that middle slot on the support bracket. And then we just need to install the riser cable into the motherboard. We'll remove the plastic protection. We can open the slot in the motherboard, and then we just need to line the cable up with the motherboard. And once it's lined up, it's just some firm pressure to get it to go into place. And then we'll just flatten the cable down behind the bracket. Next, we can open the clip on the bracket. Then we can go ahead and install our graphics card into the bracket, and then we'll push it down to lock it into place. And then we can secure the graphics card to the bracket. So you can see installing that graphics card in the case was actually pretty straightforward. I just had to use a slightly smaller screwdriver. Now this is the only issue that I ran into, was that in terms of removing the expansion slots, I removed 6, so I had 6 screws, and it requires 5 screws to secure the bracket into place, meaning that I had 1 spare screw to secure my graphics card. Unfortunately, the bracket at the moment doesn't come with any screws for securing it, which meant that I was 2 screws short to secure this triple slot card. What I actually did was I used 2 of the power supply screws. My power supply is going to be perfectly fine held on with 2 screws, but I will feed this back to Lian, and hopefully by the time this bracket comes out, it will ship with some screws for securing your graphics card as well. So taking a look at our graphics card, the bracket does look to be doing a great job of keeping it nice and straight. You know, if I'm pushing down here, it's lovely and firm. So let's see what it looks like changed to some different angles. So to do that, we're just going to have to loosen the thumb screw at the side. And just while we're here, you can see that we shouldn't have any difficulty plugging cables into all 4 of our ports. And then if we want to tilt the graphics card forward, all we're going to need to do is lift the bracket up. We're going to be able to tilt forward. It's going to lock and slot into place. And then we'll retighten that thumb screw. So you can see here, the only issue we're having is that top port is no longer accessible in this position. And in some cards you are going to have 2 slots of ports, so you might have some issues with the second slot. If we want to tilt the graphics card back, let's try that. So again, we'll lift it up and we'll tilt it all the way around to here and lower it down to lock it into place. So you can see in this position, no problem accessing all 4 of our ports. But imagine if you did have a second row of ports here, you might have issues accessing them. So I'll just show you what things look like from the front with the different angles. So that's our graphics card tilted back, and in the low position, I'm able to get it in no problem underneath all our tubes. And that's going to give you a really nice look at that ARGB lighting bar. Again, lifting it up, and that's the middle position. And you'll see when it does go down, it also slots into position on the support bracket, changing positions. And again, if we want to lift things up and tilt forward, and again, as it slides down, it not only slots into place here, but it slots into place on that support bracket. So this one, I'm not so fussed on the aesthetics. Although if you do have a nice screen at the top, it is going to give you the option of seeing that screen. So we'll see what it looks like later on when we power things on. The advantage of this one is it is going to make it slightly easier for you to use a bigger cooler. The other thing it would do, I did struggle to plug my cable in. If I had it in this position, it would have been definitely easier to get the GPU power cable plugged in. And then we take a look at the height position, so we can remove the thumb screw. And then to adjust the position, we're just going to pull the graphics card forwards. We can lift it up and then push it backwards. And again, all we would need to do is replace that thumb screw to secure it into place. Again, if we want to move it down, again, pull the graphics card forward, let it fall all the way to the bottom slot. And then if we push backwards, that's going to lock it into place. And again, all we need to do is replace that thumb screw. Okay, I'll show you what that looks like from the front. So that's the graphics card all the way down at the bottom. And you can see I've installed my fans in at the bottom of the case. So this actually looks pretty clean and it's going to give me a better view of the top of my motherboard and a bit more space for my cables. If I wanted to bring it up to the middle position again, so that's us in the middle position there. And again, starting to put a wee bit more pressure on those cables, and we bring it all the way up to the top. Again, for me, that's not going to be great for this case because it's blocking a little bit more of the motherboard. Although if I wanted to have fans up, it would definitely give me more clearance at the bottom for fans. The only side issue you might have of moving your graphics card like this is you are going to have to check in the manual to see if your support bracket is still in the right place. So I would have a think about what height position you want to have it in at the start, and then install the support bracket in the right position for that before putting the graphics card in.